Hey, I am glad to be here this morning. Thank you for the invitation. This is like coming home. I'm a North Alabama guy, so anytime I can get back up this way, even though Auburn's in my blood, when I can come back to the northern part of the state, that's home to me. So thank you for the invitation to be with you. And certainly I just want to take a minute and just say thank you for the work that you're doing here in Gadsden and Etowah County. I tell you, stuff's happening here. You're on the move, and I'm appreciative of that. And it's fun to watch, and it's fun to tell others about it and sing your praises and accolades. And so I certainly tip my hat to you and say thank you for what you're doing in this part of the state, and not only benefits here, but the rest of us. So, Will, thank you a little bit. I'm just going to kind of go and tell you a little bit about Auburn as a whole, and then tell you about university outreach as a whole, and then tell you about the Government and Economic Development Institute. So that's kind of the hierarchy, and tell you a little bit about what we do and who we serve and who we are and those kinds of things. So some of you may not care about Auburn, but I'll tell you, since they signed my paycheck, I'm going to tell you a little bit about them. Obviously, the leading land grant university in the state, and we'll talk about what that means in a little bit, but obviously, most like your organizations, probably your businesses, maybe even your person has this vision statement, a mission statement, and we've got some foundational themes that are in keeping with what you would think generically apply to higher ed as a whole, and also to sort of land grant universities. So we're trying to lead and shape the future of higher education. That's ultimately what we're trying to do. And you can see where outreach fits in is in that second line of the mission statement of the university as a whole that says we're trying to improve the lives of people of Alabama. And how do we do that? Obviously, education, but lifelong learning, research, scholarship, and then service. And I think that's kind of where our institute, the institute that I'm fortunate enough to be with, gets to participate and hopefully contribute to fulfilling the university's mission as a whole. So we fall under that foundational theme of outreach at the very bottom, engagement and outreach. So that's kind of a little bit about Auburn, our vision and our mission. We say we're informally governed by a creed. You can see the pictures of George Petrie there. He was a professor in the College of History there at Auburn years ago. You can see passed away in 1947. His claim to fame, he coached Auburn's first football team. So when you're in Alabama, that's important. So he's the one, came from the University of Virginia. So for those of you that don't know, that's why Auburn's colors are orange and blue. He mimicked those because he coached there and learned the game when he was at the University of Virginia. But all of these things are beliefs that we say govern what we live and adhere by at Auburn. Practical world, again, knowledge, honesty, truthfulness, those kinds of things that you would find in a creed. And we always end it by saying, and because Auburn men and women believe in these things, we believe, or I believe in Auburn and love it. So, penned in 1943. So again, Dr. George Petrie. Started in 1856. So one of the oldest colleges here in the state. Started as East Alabama Male College. It's 20 years younger than the city of Auburn. Founded by the Methodist Church. Obviously was an all-male academy. There was a similar female college located nearby as well. And then in 1872, the Morrill Act, we became the first land grant college in the South. It was renamed from East Alabama Male College to the Agricultural and Mechanical College. Then we became the Alabama Polytechnic Institute, API. And then finally, most people don't know, we did not officially become known as Auburn University until 1960. So really not that long ago in the grand scheme of things, although it's been called Auburn University for a lot longer than that. The name change officially came in 1960. So you can see about a 30,000 student population, how it's broken down. The vast majority, obviously, undergraduate higher education, about 50-50 male, female. 50 states, all represented in 106 countries, so a very diverse student body you can see there. They just released the numbers yesterday of the applications, the number of applications for incoming freshmen for this year. Classes start Monday. Anybody want to take a guess at how many applications Auburn received for the freshman class this year? Higher. 30,000 applications. So the size of the student body applied to be a freshman at Auburn this year. So yeah, we may be doing some things right, so we'll see. Obviously, Dr. Gouge, Jay Gouge, is our president now, just announced he is retiring for the second time. So he served as our president until 2017 and retired, and then came back on an interim basis in 2019 and has served until probably sometime early next year. He's notified the Board of Trustees he does plan to retire officially this time, so we certainly appreciate Dr. Gouge. But you can see a large employer, over 5,000 employees, and the breakdown between administrative professional staff, faculty, and again, administrative staff. 150 majors, 550 clubs, and over 300,000 graduates. So kind of a little bit of snapshot of Auburn. All that's composed within 12 schools and colleges on the university campus. So you can see everything from engineering to nursing, liberal arts, pharmacy, architecture, business, and we do have a school or a college of veterinary medicine. So all that composes the schools and colleges there. Very proud of a lot of these designations, a lot of these impact outreach. The Carnegie R1 classification is a top research institution. That's been a big focus for the university, not only for funding, but just really setting the chart for higher ed as a whole. But best value, again, the Carnegie Community Engagement classification, that specifically applies to what I do in outreach every day. But you can see, certainly our students are very fond of their time at Auburn. And hopefully most of them say they would return. 93% say they'd choose Auburn for their experience again. So you can see, hopefully we're doing some things right. And we're also designated, I mentioned the land grant university, we'll talk about what that means, but we're also a sea grant and a space grant university. So very proud of all those designations. So what is a land grant? Many of you may not know. Again, we mentioned it earlier. You can see there, 1862, really started funding. The federal government passed a law that funded educational institutions, ceded them land or gave the state authority to cede them land that was federally controlled, again, to create or establish land grant colleges. And so that's how Auburn started. Really as a way to teach, you can see the main things there: agriculture science, military science, and engineering. Really because of the change in our economy, shifting away from agrarian, becoming more industrial related. But still maintaining those agrarian ties. So you can see there's all the land grants in the country. So you can see the ones with the red dot, 1862, and then just as recently as 1994, a lot of those have to do with some Native American tribes that have now established land grant universities. So all across the state, we do have partnership. Tuskegee, a private institution here in the state, is classified as a land grant, as well as Alabama A&M in nearby Huntsville. So that's what it did. Again, trying to require that each state, again, show that race was not an admissions criteria, but that's why Tuskegee is also designated then. You should think about the time frame, 1890 there. Cooperative Extension was founded there. 1914, again, as a way to fulfill that land grant mission in every county, still alive and well today in 2021. So you can see trying to affect positive change, even though their shifts have really kept up with the times and not necessarily that original founding mission, but they continue to exist in every county. So this is, again, just a little bit more about Auburn's history, why we were created, our purpose, and now we have the broad range I showed you in 12 colleges, 300,000 alumni. So strategic plan, how this affects you and how this affects us. So obviously we want engaged faculty and staff as we're trying to improve the lives of Alabamians. Enrollment, we want to enroll those students, the best and the brightest, train them, keep them in Alabama, and then just really commit to operational excellence. Be transparent, use money wisely, be efficient, effective, high performing. I highlighted impactful service for a certain reason, because it does directly apply to what we do. We wanted to expand our land grant and service capabilities, particularly in the areas of innovation, engagement, because we think all those things contribute to quality of life and economic development. And I'll show you how we kind of implement those across our range as we talk about outreach. That's a big fancy organization chart of all the moving pieces of the university. You can see we're governed by a board of trustees. The president reports to the board of trustees. The provost is our senior academic officer. We also have a senior vice president there for academic affairs, the same title. and then the Vice President of University Outreach, of which I report to. So you can see the hierarchy there in outreach, and we'll kind of show you the various areas that outreach covers. So we're much more than just obviously teaching in the classroom setting as a research institution, but instruction, assistance, and engagement. And so what we're trying to do is build those partnerships, not only in the education arena, but also community partnerships, higher education partnerships, and really to further economic development in our mission. So we do focus on campus engagement, obviously, but we're trying to respond to the needs of society and engage for that quality of life, literally across the state. We've done pretty well in achieving that mission, not only academically, but nationally. Gotten some recognitions from the Carnegie Foundation for our community engagement. We'll talk about some of the classes we teach and administer, some of the programs that contribute to that. But again, engaging our students, engaging our faculty, and then certainly providing that service to the communities. So just another things, again, you can go back and look at all that later, but just some of the highlights and accolades that we're pretty proud of, certainly for university outreach as a whole. So again, I mentioned where we are, the Government Economic Development Institute. You can see we sort of have four, I guess, units up under GEDI: community development, training, consulting, mostly in the human resource arena, and then certainly our government support. And they're kind of use some terms interchangeably as we go through, but you can kind of see. We'll talk about some of these other offices that fall under outreach. Again, all contributing to what I consider community and economic development. I use those terms interchangeably. The Office of Public Service, education outreach and engagement, professional and continuing education, and then certainly we have an OLLI Center, the Osher Lifelong Learning Center, or the Learning Institute at Auburn, housed in a historic home there on Auburn's campus called Sunny Slope. And then has certainly other campuses and outreach units as a whole. So that defines all those ones that I mentioned. Some of them are pretty self-explanatory. What do? We're trying to train governments, government officials, planning, best practices, look at strategic initiatives for community growth and sustainability. So that's kind of our mission. We do training, we do consulting to civic officials, board members, public agencies, state, county, local level, again, on the best practices of government, try to set some trends, look at some ideas for economic development, community development as a whole. And then all those other things, again, these are just the other outreach units that I think contribute, and we work in tandem together, not necessarily the topic or the what we're supposed to be focusing on today, but just to kind of give you an idea that all those are there. Certainly, the Office of Public Service administers the Encyclopedia of Alabama. So if you've never, a free online resource, you never looked at that, again, a great online resource talking about all things Alabama. So again, mentioned OLLI, and then certainly we even have a global initiative serving, again, our entire global outreach partners. That's kind of what we do, and what we're trying to do is expand those outreach units as we're strategically growing on behalf of the university. So we're trying to train those folks in lifelong learning, professional programs, and again, be outreach accessible. So as we kind of talk about what GEDI does and what our office does every day. So there's our vision. We think Alabama, obviously at Auburn, we want to be recognized as Alabama's top organization for university outreach. We're well on our way toward that. So we're trying to keep that excellent reputation. We've been around since 1976. In some iteration, we've had a variety of different names, and you'll see that as we kind of go through. But what do we want to do? We want to be a resource for you, again, as we're trying to serve the state. A resource for education, consulting, and really policy advisement and leadership at the government level. And we use that very broadly in terms of economic development, community development, government, kind of synonymous there. We want to continue to do things. We've got some programs that have been in existence since we started, and then we're constantly adding new programs, new training opportunities, and new outreach engagement. So we want to maintain our relevancy. And so what are we doing? We're trying to improve the quality of life for the state of Alabama. So that's kind of ultimately what it boils down to. And how do we do that? Training, research, collaboration, community building, partnerships, those kinds of things. So that's I told you we've changed names, been around since 1976, but we've changed names just as recently as 2015, where we combined, again, the Economic Development Institute with the Center for Governmental Services. As our mission continues to change, trying to be more strategic, trying to be more streamlined, trying to be more efficient and effective. And so what that's resulted in today, at least since 2015, is the Government and Economic Development Institute. We do have a board of advisors that serves as our governing board, really that advises us on policy, programs, training opportunities, needs, trends, and you can see not necessarily the names, but who we kind of partner with: the Chamber of Commerce Association, the Alabama Association of County Commissions. Certainly the County Commissions of Alabama is a huge partner for us. The Alabama Department of Revenue, again, Economic Development, Alabama Power, a lot of our utility partners with Alabama Municipal Electric Cooperative, and then some local folks that do HR, that are local commissioners, that are local, again, members of elected delegation here in our House. So you can see that's kind of who advises us. These serve in a rotating capacity as we meet periodically throughout the year. So I mentioned we do this in 4 different areas. We've got an education and training unit. That's our largest unit. We did about 200 trainings, and I'll use 2019 data because we're just going to gloss over 2020. Pretend that didn't happen. So we did about 200 trainings. Our database is well over 10,000 folks that we've touched, that we've impacted, that we've trained continually throughout really the whole course of all of our trainings. Research and publications. Many of you maybe have seen the Alabama Issues publication. We do that every other year. Really not necessarily policy recommendations, but just highlighting some areas of need and pulling together some data for policymakers to look at in terms of to guide their decision making. Consulting and engagement is really, I mentioned the HR component. We do a lot of advising, a lot of consulting projects for municipal HR departments, for county HR departments. That's everything from pay classifications to pay scales to policies and procedures manuals to any kind of HR regulation that comes through. We do all of that, obviously with the goal of efficiency and effectively trying to deliver those, but reduce liability, reduce lawsuits and things like that, and help you operate as best as you can. And then certainly we have connections and communications. We do a lot of publications highlighting a lot of our areas of focus. Now, in terms of the government, we'll see we administer training programs for every single one of those entities. Some of our programs are state mandated. In fact, 3 of them are state mandated by acts in the Alabama Constitution. One of them, again, serves county commissioners. So I know Commissioner Grant's here. That's state mandated that within 2 years of Jamie's election to his position, he has to complete 50 hours of continuing education. And so we administer that. Same thing you'll see there with the property tax and then some the mapping and tax appraiser, tax administrator. All those are constitutionally mandated that people that hold those positions in the state have to go through a prescribed program of work that documents really their progression in professional development and continuing education. So we administer all that. So we touch literally people in every county in every one of those offices. Again, training in sales tax, public administration in terms of license administrators. They're called things differently in different counties, but again, that's the overall broad term. And then certainly public personnel. So all those public personnel administrators, risk managers, payroll specialists, all those designations for the implementation of government services. We provide all of that. And then I did kind of skip over the ACCMA, the City County Management Association. A lot of communities in our state municipalities are governed by a city manager. You have a county administrator. We, again, administer the professional development, continuing education training for that group of government servants as well. So pretty broad base of who we serve across the state in terms of government. Now, economic and community development. We do the intensive economic development training course. You've got distinguished leaders and participants that have been there through that course now or currently in that course from here. We are in our 39th year, or 38th year, going into our 39th year. This has really become the primary training course. It's a 2-week course offered every year at Auburn on our campus. It's accredited by the International Economic Development Council. Week 1 focuses primarily on general body of knowledge in relationship to economic and community development. Runs the gamut. And when we say intensive, if you've been through it, it's intensive. Starts at about 7:30 every day and goes till about 5:30 every day. And it is jam-packed of accredited material, again, on an international scale for IEDC. Week 2 is Alabama specific. We're the only site, I think, still, in the country. Now, this course and its, I guess, similarities or equivalents is offered at several other places across the country. The closest one to us is at Georgia Tech in Atlanta. We're the only one that does a second week solely focused on Alabama, on our state. So they get to hear from Alabama practitioners, specific Alabama programs, how they can take those back, how they can implement them, how they can partner with them back in local communities. So we're very proud of that, not only the longevity, but the content that provides. We also have a partnership with the Economic Development Association of Alabama for our Leadership Institute. A series of courses you can take on a variety of topics. We've got 2 coming up, one at the end of the month about retail development, how you attract and sustain retail in a community. And then we've got another one coming up on entrepreneurship. I think it's in the first week of October. So that's the next 2 in the series. They cover really any kind of community and economic development topic. And then also kind of culminates with attendance at one of EDAA's large conferences where you can get a certification really as a graduate of the Leadership Institute for EDAA and GEDI. And then we administer a group called Impact Alabama. One of the, really it's a core cadre of folks from some of our leading economic developers, our leading utilities, some of the thought leaders that are trying to help steer economic development policy and make advisements really to governmental bodies about best practices, where we should go, trends, things that are happening, and making sure we're staying cutting edge and doing a lot of that research. We do a lot of conferences, a lot of workshops. I mentioned 200 plus trainings in a year. All of that is covered. We do a lot of special topics. Again, we did a training on opportunity zones. The sky's really the limit in terms of some of the things that we've seen and been asked to administer, all trying to, again, further knowledge of economic development and community development as a whole. So it keeps us very busy. I mentioned Alabama issues as a whole. Again, just trying to stimulate public discussion along things that are unfortunately recurring issues in our state, but you can see the last issue came out last year in recognition of the state's 200th anniversary. But again, education, criminal justice, prison reform, all those things that affect our quality of life. We also help, and there's several other, because it takes many different offices to pull this data together, but the economic impact of the university, we administer that or help contribute to that every year. And you can see the latest report comes out every other year. Auburn as a whole had a $5.6 billion economic contribution to the state of Alabama. So we pull that together. You can see directly because of relationship to university employment. Again, you can see Alabama plus university employment created about 27,000 jobs in the state of Alabama. Earning capacity, if you have a degree from Auburn, earning capacity in Alabama equates to about $3.4 billion as a whole. So that's a significant impact, again, directly attributed to Auburn, with a direct economic impact to the state of $2.2 billion. So we're very proud of that and certainly want to continue that. And I think it's important to say that, again, the state, we returned in our economic structure more than 8 times our state appropriation. So for every $8.50 that is invested in by the state in Auburn University, we'll return, again, 8 times more. So pretty impressive. We're pretty proud of that. I mentioned the consulting and engagement piece that we do. We, again, specialize in municipal and county government projects, and we do some nonprofit organizations. We've worked with some regional councils, some other groups like that, mainly in the human resource arena. And again, making sure those entities in the government are compliant with existing laws, equitable, Again, supporting really effective utilization of all your resources in the HR arena to make government run better, how you recruit employees, how you retain them, pay scales, those kinds of things. And then looking at personnel systems, policies, and procedures. And you can see that's just a small piece. We did work in Rainbow City. That's close within the past couple of years of some of the folks that we've served doing this type of work. And you can see I also put a state agency in there. We looked at a couple of their programmatic areas under ADECA to make sure how they could effectively and efficiently deliver products and services, particularly in their surplus property. It's a very large unit where surplus property ends from the state up at ADECA. So some of the things we do there. Mention connections, we work daily on one of these entities. So I list on purpose the very top one, the University of Alabama. So Auburn and Alabama do work together pretty regularly. I know Kay's here, but Main Street, Alabama, I'm a former board member of Main Street, but certainly we work with them almost daily or at least weekly. Another program in the state, Alabama Communities of Excellence, targeting smaller communities, 12,000, 15,000 or less. Again, granting them some training, some certifications, trying to bolster them and highlight their accolades as well. But you can see we serve all of these different groups representing a lot of different government officials. I don't use the term bureaucrat negatively. It's how you deliver government service. So that's government employees. And again, we're trying to serve them, train them, equip them so that they can operate efficiently and effectively. And therefore, hopefully, your engagement with them is efficient and effective, improving our quality of life as a whole. So you can see a lot of the things that we kind of cover there. This is interesting. A lot of people don't know about this. We have a Know Your Community. It's a free online tool on our website. So if you go to Auburn, you'll see a headline there that says Outreach. A drop down below Outreach, you'll see the Government and Economic Development Institute. When you click on that, you'll see a Know Your Community link. We do ask you to just put your name and email in there. That's just so that we can track usage to show that it is in demand, and it is. But it's a free online tool that is huge for communities, but also for business folks because it's searchable. It's also community comparable. It's region comparable. It's state comparable, where you can look at the number of potential workers that are within a certain geographic area, the educational attainment within a certain geographical area. Literally every single demographic that you can think of, there's a dozen of them, to do comparisons, to truly see where your growth trends are, where you're lagging, what your workforce looks like. Again, simple census data is all included in there, but then you can look and compare that to communities of like size, or neighboring communities, or other communities within your county, your region, whoever you want to benchmark against or compare against. Again, you can see there's even consumer expenditures. There's job employment based on how many manufacturing jobs, how many retail jobs, how many service jobs, how many lawyers, those kinds of things within a particular area. All that's searchable. It's 100% free. And so it's a great tool for community developers, for economic developers, certainly for employers to see what the community really has to offer them. And then it's also great for what we consider educational opportunities where you can truly target and see your needs and say, okay, we have a skills gap here. So maybe we need to focus on this. Maybe we need to offer training in here. Maybe we need to develop some training here. But again, it's called Know Your Community. We just ask for a simple registration, but it is free, 100% free to use. And it is a very valuable tool. Also has mapping capabilities, GIS capabilities. Again, I just mentioned some of the things in the parentheses there of what it looks at. It is very comprehensive. It's very user-friendly. You can't really go wrong. It's click and drop-down menus. And you can print all that out, again, so that you can have it. And again, it is updated in real time. So again, Know Your Community is a huge piece for us. You say, how do we do it? That's who does it every day. Everybody except that top person. Everybody below that does it every day, besides me. I'm very blessed to work with a great staff of folks that have been there. I guess my youngest employee is 2 years in. Most of the folks have been there a long, long time. David's been at the university over 30 years. Same thing, Julia's been there about 23. So some of my top staff people have really committed to our mission and our vision. And the changes that have happened through the years. So that's a little bit about us. I think I may try to keep it about 30 minutes and and leave some time for some questions. And that's how you find us. So all of our, social media, Twitter, all that kind of stuff. Certainly that's my phone number. That rings right on my desk or to my cell phone. So call me if I can help you. Certainly my email. That's how you can reach us, and we certainly want to help any way we can. And if we can't, we can build collaborative partnerships and hopefully be of assistance to you. So I appreciate the opportunity to be with you. I'll certainly take questions on if there's any online or from here, and I'll hush.